It started with the sound of shattering glass. That night, silence had filled every corner of our house until it broke, like something inside me broke too. I rushed into the living room, barefoot, heart pounding, only to see the floor glistening with the remains of a photo frame. Inside, it was a picture of my wife, Claire, smiling beside a man I didn't recognize. And in that moment, something shifted, something I couldn't quite explain. I called her name, but she didn't answer. The house felt colder than usual, the air heavier. I looked at the clock. It was 11:37 p.m. She should have been home by 9. Claire was never late without a reason. My mind started spinning with possibilities: accident, flat tire, maybe she just stayed late at work, but deep down I knew this night was different. When she finally walked through the door half an hour later, she looked startled, like she wasn't expecting me to be awake. Her hair was slightly damp from the rain, her expression guarded. I asked where she'd been, trying to sound calm, but my voice trembled anyway. She froze for a moment, then said, "I needed some air." That was all, no explanation, no warmth, no apology, just those 4 words. I wanted to believe her, but then my eyes drifted back to the shattered photo frame. Her gaze followed mine, and I saw her lips part slightly just for a second before she quickly looked away. "Why was that picture hidden behind the dresser?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she bent down, started picking up the glass, her hands shaking. I reached out to help, but she pulled back. "Don't," she whispered. The tension in the room was thick. I felt like a stranger in my own home. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was suddenly someone else. Later that night, as we lay in bed, the distance between us felt like miles. I stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. And when I finally drifted off, I woke up to the sound of her whispering on the phone in the kitchen. Her tone was low, cautious, like she didn't want to wake me. I stayed still, listening. I couldn't make out every word, but I caught enough to send chills through me. "I can't keep this up," he's starting to suspect. That was it. My chest tightened. I got out of bed quietly, but the floor creaked and she turned. Her face went pale. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. She stammered, "It was just work. At midnight." She didn't reply. We stood there, eyes locked, both of us breathing hard. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "You're scaring me, Daniel." That hit me harder than anything else she could have said. I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling, but the fear in her eyes, it looked real, like she truly believed it. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. No breakfast, no note, just silence. When I checked her phone bill later that day, something I'd never done before, I noticed a number she'd been calling frequently over the past few weeks. Always late at night, always when I wasn't around. I couldn't help myself, I dialed it. The line rang twice before a man answered. His voice was deep, steady, professional. "This is Officer Miller." I froze. "A police officer." Sorry, wrong number," I muttered and hung up. Officer Miller, the name stuck in my head like a splinter. Why was my wife calling a cop so often? When Claire came home that evening, I asked her directly, "Who's Officer Miller?" Her fork dropped, the clatter echoed across the dining table. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, Claire." "I'm not," she snapped, standing up. "Why are you checking my calls?" Her anger felt rehearsed, like it was meant to distract me, but it only made me more certain something was wrong. "You've been calling him almost every night," I said quietly. "Why?" She took a step back, tears filling her eyes. "Because I don't feel safe anymore," she whispered. That cut deep. Safe from who, me? She didn't answer, she just walked away, her voice trembling. "I can't do this right now." I watched her disappear into the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. I stood there, my fists clenched, trying to process what she meant. That night I barely slept again. Around 2 a.m. I heard her moving in the other room. The front door clicked softly. She was leaving. I followed her, careful not to make a sound. Outside, rain poured hard, washing over the empty streets. Claire ran to a parked car near the corner. Someone was inside. I saw the silhouette of a man as she got in. My stomach twisted. I wanted to run out there, confront them, but something told me not to, something darker. The next morning she acted like nothing happened, but I knew, and I think she knew I knew. By evening, we were barely speaking. The silence between us was deafening. I tried to start a conversation over dinner, but she barely looked up from her plate. Then her phone buzzed. She turned it face down immediately. I said, if you have to hide it, maybe it's not worth hiding. She looked up sharply, you don't get to say that. Then who does? Her eyes flickered with something I hadn't seen before, guilt, maybe, or sorrow. You think you know everything, but you don't, she said softly. Some truths hurt more than lies. Before I could reply, she got up and walked out again. That night, I went through her drawer. I didn't want to, but I needed to know. Inside, under a pile of receipts, was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it slowly. It was a letter never sent. Dear Ben, I don't know how to tell him. I tried to move on, but every time I see you, the memories come back. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have never left. Ben. My heart pounded in my chest. I dropped the letter and backed away like it burned me. I searched the name online, Officer Benjamin Miller, local police, married once, divorced 5 years ago. The photo attached to an old news article almost made my heart stop. It was him, the man from the car, the man she used to love. I sat there in the dark, shaking. My wife's work calls were to her ex-husband, a cop, and she'd been meeting him behind my back. I didn't know whether to feel angry or broken, maybe both. The next evening when she came home, I confronted her. No shouting this time, just pain. Tell me the truth, I said. How long have you been seeing him? Her eyes widened, then softened, like she was too tired to lie anymore. It's not what you think, she whispered. Then tell me what it is. I just needed someone to talk to. You had me. Not anymore. The words came out like knives. I didn't even know what to say after that. I walked away before I said something I'd regret, locked myself in the garage and sat there for hours staring at nothing. The next morning, everything seemed calm, too calm. Claire made breakfast, smiled faintly, asked if I wanted coffee. I nodded even though I could barely meet her eyes. But just as I took a sip, I noticed her hand trembling. Then, a faint red and blue light flashed through the window. My heart sank. Seconds later, someone knocked hard. Police, open up. Claire stood frozen. I turned to her slowly. What did you do? Her lips quivered. I'm sorry, Daniel. Before I could process it, I heard the door open and boots on the floor. A tall officer walked in, his face half-lit by the flashing lights outside. It was him, Officer Miller. My wife's ex-husband, the man she'd been calling. And at that moment, I realized this wasn't just betrayal, it was something much worse. He looked straight at me. Mr. Hall, we've received a domestic disturbance report. I'm going to need you to step aside. I stared at Claire, disbelief choking me. You called the police on me. She didn't answer, tears streamed down her face. I didn't do anything, I said, looking back at Miller. Ask her. But Miller's eyes never softened, his jaw tightened, and I could see something cold behind his stare. Sir, step aside. I didn't move. You're her ex-husband, aren't you? He froze for a second, then like it didn't matter, he said, that's none of your concern. I laughed bitterly. None of my concern, you're in my house. The tension in the room felt like it could explode. Claire sobbed quietly, whispering, please, Daniel, don't make this harder. Harder, I said, my voice breaking. You called him the man you still. Stop, she cried out. Miller stepped closer. Sir, I'm asking you one last time, step aside. My chest was heaving. I didn't know if I wanted to scream or collapse. Finally, I raised my hands slightly. Fine, I'm stepping aside. He moved past me, keeping his eyes on mine like I was the threat. I could see how much he wanted to be here, not as a cop, but as a man who never got over her. Claire sat down on the couch, head in her hands. I stood there watching them, him comforting her, his hand on her shoulder, and it felt like I was watching my life crumble in slow motion. When he finally turned to me again, his voice was clipped, professional. We'll need to file a report. For what? I asked quietly. He didn't answer, just wrote something in his notepad. As he walked toward the door, he said to her, I'll check on you tomorrow. Tomorrow. Like it was normal, like I didn't even exist anymore. When they left, the silence that followed was unbearable. Claire didn't look at me once. I stood there for what felt like hours, just staring at the empty doorway, trying to understand how everything I loved had turned into this. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because the next morning, when I went outside to get the mail, I found something on the porch. An envelope. No name, no address, just one line written in shaky handwriting. You don't know who you're dealing with. And that's when I realized calling the police wasn't just about fear. It was a warning. Something was coming. Something far worse than betrayal. I didn't sleep that night. The note sat on the kitchen table, its words replaying in my head over and over like a haunting echo. You don't know who you're dealing with. The morning light crept through the blinds, but it brought no comfort. Claire moved around quietly, avoiding my eyes, pretending everything was normal. She poured coffee, sat at the table, and scrolled through her phone like nothing had happened. I finally asked, "Did you leave that note?" Her eyes darted up. "What note?" "The one outside on the porch." "I don't know what you're talking about." Her denial felt too calm, too controlled. I pulled the note from my pocket and placed it in front of her. She stared at it for a moment, her face unreadable, then said softly, "You should probably stop looking for things that aren't there, Daniel." That sentence scared me more than the note itself. It wasn't what she said, it was how she said it, like she knew something I didn't. The rest of the day, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Every time I looked out the window, a black car sat across the street. Different spots, different times, but always the same car. That evening, I tried to talk to Claire again. I told her I wanted to fix things, that I still loved her despite everything. She didn't respond right away. When she finally did, she said, "You can't fix something that was broken long before you noticed." "What does that even mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. She just stood there, staring through me like I wasn't even there. "I should have told you everything," she said finally, "but I didn't want you to get hurt." "Hurt by what?" "By him." My heart sank. "By Officer Miller." She looked away, silent. That was enough. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't know where I was going, maybe the station, maybe anywhere else, but I had to find out who this man really was. At the police department, I asked to speak with him, pretending it was about a traffic matter. The desk sergeant looked surprised. "Officer Miller's not on duty today," he said. "Hasn't been for a week." That froze me in place. "That can't be right," I said. "He was at my house last night." The sergeant frowned. "No, sir, Officer Miller's on administrative leave pending investigation. He shouldn't be responding to any calls." My stomach turned. "Investigation for what?" "I can't disclose that," he said, "but if someone showed up claiming to be him, you need to report it immediately." I thanked him and left, though my hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob. If that was Miller, then who the hell was in my house? When I got back home, Claire wasn't there. Her car was gone, her phone left on the counter. I called her name, nothing. Then I noticed something else. The back door was unlocked. I stepped outside, the evening air sharp against my skin. That same black car was parked across the street again, headlights off, engine silent. I walked toward it slowly, each step heavier than the last. When I got close enough, the driver's window rolled down just a little and I saw him. The same man from last night, same face, same uniform. Except now, without the flashing lights, I could see the patches on his sleeves were wrong. The badge didn't have the city's insignia, it was fake. "Who are you?" I demanded. He smiled faintly, eyes cold. "You should really mind your own business, Daniel. You're not a cop." "No," he said, "but I used to be." I stepped back. "You're her ex-husband." He didn't deny it. "Still protecting her," he said calmly, "even when she doesn't want me to." "Protecting her from what?" I asked. His eyes darkened. "From you." He started the car, tires screeching as he drove off, leaving me standing there in the rain. That night when Claire returned, I confronted her again, my voice cracked with frustration. "Why did you call him? He's not even a cop anymore." She froze mid-step. "What did you just say?" "He's not a real officer. He's been suspended or something," the station told me. Her face went white. She sat down slowly, like the weight of everything finally hit her. "He wasn't supposed to come here," she whispered. "Then why did you call him?" "I didn't." My breath caught. "Then who did?" She looked terrified now, trembling. "He has a key, Daniel. He still has a key to my old apartment. He's been following me for months. I tried to tell you, but I thought you'd think I was crazy." My chest felt tight. Everything, the phone calls, the note, the fear, it all started making sense. "Why didn't you report him?" "I did," she said, tears in her eyes. But they said there wasn't enough evidence. He's smart. He knows how to make it look like I'm paranoid. I sat down beside her, speechless. For the first time in weeks, I believed her completely. She continued, her voice shaking. He doesn't want me to move on. Every time I try to start over, he shows up. And when you found out about the calls, I panicked. I thought if I kept quiet, he'd stop. I took her hand. We'll go to the police tomorrow, the real police. She nodded weakly. But the next morning, before we could even leave the house, there was another knock on the door. Same pattern as before, heavy, demanding. Claire's face drained of color. It's him, she whispered. I grabbed a kitchen knife and walked to the door, but before I could open it, a voice came from outside. Daniel Hall, this is Detective Harris, City Police. We need to ask you some questions. I peeked through the blinds, real officers this time. Badges visible, uniforms proper. I opened the door slightly. Sir, the detective said, we received a complaint from your wife last night. She said you threatened her. What? That's not true. She also mentioned an altercation involving an individual named Benjamin Miller. Claire stepped forward. Detective, please, it's not what you think. Ma'am, I'll need you to come with us too, Harris said. They took statements for hours. By the end of it, they confirmed something chilling. Benjamin Miller had been dismissed from the force a year ago for harassment and misuse of authority. But that wasn't the worst part. When they showed us his photo, I noticed something off. His eyes looked colder, older. Then Harris said quietly, this picture was taken last year. Miller's been missing for 3 months. Missing, I repeated. Vanished after violating a restraining order. No one's seen him since. Claire gasped, then who was at our house? The detective exchanged a worried glance with his partner. That's what we'd like to know. We stayed in a hotel that night for safety. But even there, I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched. Every creak in the hallway made me jump. Every knock sounded like a threat. At 2 a.m. my phone buzzed, unknown number. I answered quietly, hello. A deep voice replied, calm and cold, you shouldn't have gone to the police, Daniel. I froze, Ben. Silence, then a soft chuckle, you think they can protect her. The line went dead. Claire woke up when she saw my face, what's wrong? He called, I whispered. She grabbed my hand, trembling, we need to leave. We packed and drove through the night to my brother's cabin 2 hours away. No neighbors, no streetlights, just isolation. For a while, it felt safe. But on the second night, I woke up to a faint noise outside, a crunch of leaves, slow, deliberate. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch. The cold wind brushed against my face, but the air felt heavy, charged. Then I saw it, a shadow near the tree line, tall, still, watching. I called out, who's there? No response. The light flickered over the trees, catching something metallic, a badge glinting in the dark. Ben, I shouted, show yourself. But the shadow disappeared, just like that. I ran back inside, locking the doors. Claire was sitting on the couch, pale, clutching her phone. He sent me a message, she whispered. On the screen was a picture of us sleeping. Taken from outside the cabin window. My heart stopped, we need to call the police. She nodded, but before we could dial, the power went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, gravel crunched under footsteps. The last thing I heard was his voice, muffled but unmistakable, drifting through the night. I told you, Daniel, you don't know who you're dealing with. And then the sound of the back door creaking open. The back door groaned open, slow and heavy, the hinges screaming in the silence. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out every other sound. Claire gripped my arm so tightly her nails dug into my skin. I could feel her trembling beside me, her breathing uneven, her eyes wide and glistening in the faint moonlight that slipped through the window. Daniel, she whispered, barely audible. Stay here, I mouthed, though my voice shook too much to sound convincing. I grabbed the flashlight again, the beam trembling as it cut through the darkness. The kitchen was empty. The door swayed slightly from the cold air outside. Rain began to fall, soft but steady, tapping against the wooden deck like impatient fingers. I took a deep breath and stepped closer. My reflection flickered faintly on the window glass, but something else moved behind it. A shadow, then gone. I stepped outside, light sweeping across the trees, the wet ground, the empty driveway. The rain picked up, soaking through my shirt. For a moment there was nothing, only the sound of wind. Then a faint metallic clink came from the left side of the house. I turned the light and froze. Hanging from the porch railing was a police badge. Benjamin Miller's badge. Except the metal was scratched, the numbers worn away, and smeared across the center was a streak of blood. I stumbled back, fear and confusion twisting inside me. He'd been here, he wanted me to see this. Suddenly the flashlight flickered and died. Everything went black. Daniel, Claire's voice called from inside. Before I could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows, fast, the shape of a man in dark clothes moving toward the porch. I ran inside, slamming the door shut just as heavy footsteps pounded against it. Claire screamed. "He's here," she cried. The door rattled under his weight. "Open the door, Claire." His voice was rough, furious. "You know I won't hurt you if you just open it." She shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. "He's lying, Daniel, don't let him in." He slammed again, harder this time. The whole cabin shook. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a metal poker from the fireplace, and yelled, "Get out of here before I—" "Before you what?" he shouted from the other side. "You think you can protect her, you think she didn't call me first when you started losing it." His words cut through me, sharp and cold. I turned to Claire, searching her face. "He's lying," she said quickly, desperate. "Daniel, he's trying to break you." The pounding stopped, silence. Then a whisper right by the door. "She didn't tell you, did she?" Claire froze, her eyes darted toward the door, but she didn't speak. "What is he talking about?" I asked. Her lips parted, but before she could answer, glass shattered. A window in the back exploded inward. "Run," I shouted. We bolted down the hallway toward the bedroom, slamming the door behind us. I pushed the dresser against it, heart hammering. Claire clung to me, sobbing. Outside, footsteps crunched closer, steady and deliberate. Then came the sound of his voice again, calm, almost gentle this time. "You can't hide from the truth forever, Claire." Her knees gave out and she sank to the floor, whispering, "Please stop." I knelt beside her. "Tell me what he means," I begged. "What truth?" She shook her head violently. "It doesn't matter, he won't stop until he gets what he wants." "Which is what?" She looked up at me with glassy eyes. "Me." A sudden crash, the door cracked, the dresser slid an inch. I raised the poker, ready to swing. "Claire, go out the window." She hesitated. "What about you?" "Go." She climbed out, barefoot, rain pouring over her. I turned just in time to see the bedroom door splinter. A hand reached through, shoving the dresser aside. Then he stepped in. Benjamin Miller. He looked different up close, thinner, eyes darker, almost hollow. His uniform was torn, the badge bent. He smiled faintly when he saw me. "There you are." I raised the poker. "Stay back." He tilted his head. "You really think she belongs to you?" "Don't come closer." He did. "You have no idea what she's done to you." I swung. He caught the poker midair, shoved it aside with terrifying strength, and slammed me into the wall. My head hit the wood hard, the world spun. Through the haze, I heard him say, "You should have left her alone, Daniel. You should have never looked for me." Then another sound, tires screeching outside, flashing lights cutting through the rain, real ones this time. Benjamin turned his head toward the window. "Too late," he muttered. I stumbled to my feet just as the front door burst open and two officers stormed in, shouting commands. Benjamin bolted toward the back, crashing through the screen door into the trees. One officer chased him, the other ran to me. "You okay, sir?" "Claire," I gasped, "she's outside." They found her minutes later, barefoot, trembling near the driveway, drenched but alive. She ran into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. "He's gone," she sobbed. But I wasn't so sure. The police searched the area for hours, dogs, flashlights, radios, nothing. They found his fake badge, his footprints, but no trace of him. By sunrise, the storm had cleared, leaving behind only silence and the echo of everything that happened. At the station later that morning, Detective Harris looked exhausted. "We'll keep searching," he said, "but if he's been hiding this long, he knows how to vanish." I nodded numbly, staring at the coffee in my hands. It had gone cold. Claire sat beside me, silent. She hadn't spoken since they brought us in. When the detective left, I finally turned to her. "Why didn't you tell me the truth from the start?" She looked down. "Because I thought if you knew, he'd come after you too." But he did anyway, I said softly. Her eyes welled up. I was trying to protect you, Daniel. He was dangerous even before we divorced, controlling, obsessed. I moved 3 times before I met you. I thought I was safe. I took her hand gently. You don't have to run anymore. We'll face this together. For a moment I believed it. But 2 days later, everything fell apart again. We were staying at a safe house under police watch. It felt secure, locked doors, cameras, even patrol cars nearby, but safety is an illusion when someone like him wants you found. That night around 11 p.m., a loud knock echoed through the house. Claire froze immediately. "Who is it?" I called out. No answer. Then, through the peephole, I saw it, a uniformed officer standing calmly on the porch. "Evening, sir," he said when I opened the door a crack. "Routine check." Something about him felt wrong. His smile didn't reach his eyes, his voice had a faint rasp. I hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, come in." As he stepped into the light, Claire appeared from the hallway, her face drained of color. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That's not." Before she could finish, the man turned, his smile widened. "Miss me." It was him, Benjamin. I barely had time to react before he drew a gun. "Don't move," he said coldly. "You've made this a lot harder than it needed to be." The world slowed. I saw every detail, the water dripping from his coat, the way his finger twitched near the trigger, Claire's silent tears. "Please, Ben," she whispered, "you don't have to do this." He laughed quietly. "You said that before, right before you left." I moved slightly, trying to distract him. "You don't want to do this, Miller. You'll never get away with it." He turned the gun toward me. "You took her from me. I lost everything because of you." "She chose to leave you," I said, "not me." He hesitated, his jaw tightened. For a moment his expression cracked, something like pain flickered in his eyes, then rage replaced it. He raised the gun again. But before he could pull the trigger, red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Sirens blared. "Drop your weapon," a voice shouted from outside. Benjamin froze, his breathing quickened. Then, instead of lowering the gun, he smiled. "You'll never understand what it's like to love someone so much you'd rather destroy everything than lose them." And then the front window shattered. A single gunshot echoed through the room. Benjamin staggered backward, eyes wide, before collapsing to the floor. The room fell silent except for Claire's sobs. Officers rushed in seconds later, shouting commands, but it was over. Benjamin Miller was dead. As they led us outside, the rain began to fall again, soft, steady, almost cleansing. Claire held onto me tightly, whispering through her tears, "It's finally over." But as they put us in the patrol car, I glanced back toward the porch at the spot where he'd fallen. And there, beneath the faint glow of the police lights, something caught my eye. A piece of paper, soaked but still legible. One last note. "You think it's over, but the truth hasn't even started yet." I stared at it, feeling the chill creep back through my bones. Because somehow, even in death, Benjamin Miller still had one more secret left to reveal. I sat there in the dim interrogation room, the air thick with tension and betrayal. My wrists still ached from the cold steel cuffs that had just been removed. Across the table sat Officer Daniel, my wife Emily's ex-husband. His uniform looked crisp, his voice calm, but the venom in his eyes told a very different story. He leaned forward, his words slow and deliberate. "Funny, isn't it, the woman we both loved now caught between us again." I clenched my fists under the table. "I didn't do anything wrong, Daniel, you know that." He smiled faintly, that kind of smile only a man with power wears when he knows you're trapped. "Oh, but you did, and this time no one's going to save you." Before I could respond, the door opened. Emily stepped in. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she looked between us. "Daniel, please stop this," she whispered. Daniel didn't even look at her. "Sit down, Emily, you're a witness here, not a wife." She shook her head. "You're abusing your badge again, just like last time." He turned to her, his jaw tightening. Last time you ran away with him after everything I did for you, you think you can just erase me." Her voice broke. "You were never erased, Daniel, you were toxic, you broke me." His hand slammed against the table, the sound echoing off the metal walls. "No, Emily, he broke you." Then he pointed at me, the man sitting right there pretending to be innocent. I looked up, meeting his glare. "What is this really about, Daniel, me or the fact that she chose me?" For the first time, his expression faltered. She didn't choose you, she was running from me, and now she'll see who you really are. He reached for a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were printed photos, blurry, dark images of a man who looked eerily like me near an old motel. You were there last night, Daniel said coldly, with another woman, and before you deny it, these are time-stamped. You lied to her and to me. Emily stared at the photos, her lips trembling. No, that can't be true. I looked at the pictures and rage burned inside me. These are fake, you made these. Daniel leaned back smug. Oh sure, the cop forged evidence, that's original. But I noticed something he hadn't, a small detail in one photo, a red car in the corner, the same red car that had been impounded 2 months ago after Daniel's last case. My voice steadied. You didn't even change the background properly. That car, been in police custody since August. Daniel froze. For the first time the mask cracked. Emily looked at him, realizing the truth. You did this, she whispered. He looked away. You think you're safe with him? He'll ruin you, Emily. He'll leave you like everyone else. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You don't get to decide who I trust anymore. She pulled out her phone and pressed a button. You forgot something, Daniel. I recorded everything, every call, every threat. Internal Affairs already has it. Daniel's eyes widened. What did you say? The door burst open. 2 officers entered, higher-ranking ones. They'd been listening. One of them said firmly, Officer Daniel, you're under investigation for evidence tampering and misconduct. Daniel stood up furious. You can't do this to me, she's lying. But no one listened. They took his badge, his gun, and escorted him out as he shouted Emily's name, his voice echoing down the hall until it faded completely. When the door closed, Emily collapsed into the chair, sobbing. I sat beside her, my anger melting into exhaustion. Why did you even call the police that night? I asked softly. She covered her face. I didn't know what else to do. You were distant. You kept secrets about your job, and I thought maybe you were hiding something. Daniel offered to help. I didn't realize what he was really planning. I looked at her, hurt but understanding. He wanted to destroy us, Emily, and you just handed him the weapon. Her eyes met mine, full of guilt. I know, I was stupid. I just wanted peace, but all I did was bring the past back into our lives. I took her hand slowly. You didn't bring it back. He forced his way in, but he's gone now. She nodded weakly. Do you think they'll really punish him? I sighed. Cops like him, they always find a way out, but even if they don't, I don't care anymore. I just want to move forward. Outside the station, dawn was breaking, the first light cutting through the dark sky. Emily stopped and turned to me. After everything that happened, can we still be what we were before? I looked at her. The woman who had doubted me, hurt me, but also stood up for me when it mattered. Maybe not what we were, I said softly. But maybe something stronger, because this time the truth's finally on our side. She smiled faintly, tears still glistening in her eyes. Then let's go home. As we walked toward the car, I glanced back at the building one last time, where lies, love, and law had collided. Daniel's shadow might haunt us for a while, but the storm had finally passed. And in that quiet morning light, I realized something I'd never forget. Sometimes the person you love can break your heart, but if they fight to mend it, that's where real forgiveness begins. And maybe, just maybe, that's what love truly means.